So the big question is this: how are those in the self-storage industry like us going to be successful in today's market? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jim Ross, and welcome to the Self-Storage Show.
I'm good to go. Come on, guys. Looks like I'm a little bit too much stuff going on online right now. The hazards of having all your kids home and doing virtual learning. They're all on their computers, all on their Chromebooks, doing their Zoom classes. So taking up some bandwidth today. So hopefully I don't lose you. We'll stay on track here. Hopefully everyone's doing good. Good start to the week so far. Just sitting down today. That's kind of funny when I do these daily lives. I don't know what I'm going to talk about until about 5 minutes before. I sit down and see what's going on in the day. Today I remember today is the SBOA virtual conference thing they have going on, and it starts like right now. So I won't take too much of your time if you guys are attending that, and I'm going to go check it out myself. But I was just thinking, today with their virtual conference, and I just brought back some memories of my first conference that I was doing. This going back in the vaults here. It's going back a few years. Real quick, I used to work for Extra Space. That was my first gig into storage. Again, I was 21, just barely turned 21, and became a manager for them and ran 2 properties. I lived and worked at one site, and I ran another location as a satellite location. And that's before any technology was really around to be able to pull that one off. But we figured it out, duct tape and chewing gum, and we kind of pieced everything together and we got it to work. So that was kind of my first introduction into storage, was back in the extra space days. And that's when they were little Extra Space. In fact, their main headquarters is about 15 minutes from my house. So I live right by them. So it's been kind of fun watching, back then we had like 20 sites, just to seeing what it is now. So it's been kind of fun to watch that journey. But anyway, when I was a manager with them, they had a contest that they were doing with all the managers. Like I said, almost 20 of us that we had at that time. And they were quick. And the contest was measuring some KPIs, key performance indicators. I'm not figuring exactly what it was right now, but it was based off percentages of how many units you have and the revenue you brought in and your closing percentages and all that kind of stuff. And they tried to make it as much equal footing for all of them. Like I had 500 units, some people had 300 unit facilities, that kind of thing. So they tried to make it all even best they could. Anyway, I ended up winning this contest, and the winner got a chance to go to Orlando to go to the first, at least it was my first storage conference. And I believe it was the SSA. Could be wrong, but I believe it was the SSA conference. And I won. I just remember thinking, okay, storage conference. At least I get a free trip to Orlando. This is going to be boring, And I just remember thinking, I was like, there's this conference for self-storage? Like, are you kidding me? Gosh, what a bunch of nerds. Well, 20 plus years later, I'm like king of the self-storage nerds. So it's kind of funny to see how that all played out. But yeah, it's time for the conference. I always remember that day of like going to the airport, because usually I'm the one that's like at the airport like an hour early, making sure I'm there on time and I'm not going to be late. And it's no rushing. There was all this road construction going on here in Utah, because we were getting the Olympics that year, and so this road construction was just everywhere. I didn't account for that, and I got caught in the construction. I just remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, my flight takes off in 30 minutes. I got to go, and I'm 40 minutes away." And it's all stressed out. And it was one of those things like in the movies. I got there, went through security, and I was booking it. I was running so hard. I was like, don't be late. I mean, my boss was there on the plane. It's like, don't miss this flight. Like, that won't be a good look. And last one is one of those things. I literally got through the thing and they shut the door behind me last second. I'm just dripping. I couldn't breathe. And my boss was sitting there. First person I saw when I walked in, because they were probably sitting first class. And they didn't say a word. They just kind of looked at me and just were like, just shook their head. Like, oh boy, that was a bad first impression there. But yeah, we walked in the doors, got to Orlando, walked through the doors of the convention hall. And again, I'm just thinking, it's going to be a snooze fest. This is a bunch of storage nerds, but whatever. Let's get through this, and I'm going to go play at the water park. And it was the first speaker. I don't remember who it was, but I remember this first speaker. I sat down. I was a good boy. I was taking my notes. And they just happened to just, off the cuff, just kind of mention the stat. 10% of all households, 10% of all households, I can talk today, use storage. And I was like, wait, what? I never heard that before. Maybe everyone else knows that by now, but I didn't know that back in the day. So I just remember writing that down, and I didn't really hear much else after that, because my brain just kind of went, focused on that for a second, and I just started kind of reverse engineering some numbers. And I kind of guessed the numbers of like, well, how many households are in my 3 mile market, 3 mile? And so I kind of based the numbers off this, and I figured it out more once I got home. Again, I couldn't just look online because this was before the internet. Yes, I'm old, boys and girls. And anyway, so I just kind of did some rough numbers. And I just started, just for example, it was like 35,000 households in my 3 mile market. And that's pretty much what it was. And I had, well, how many units do I have? At that time, I had roughly 500 units that I was manager of between the 2 properties. And I'm like, all right, well, 500 units divided by 35,000 households, that's 1.5%. Cool. All right. There's already 10% of households in my market that already need storage. I'm not trying to convince them to come store, that they're already in need of storage or using storage, what have you. I only need 1.5% of that market. All right. Well, what do I have to do to get everyone's attention? And that simple question that I asked myself, what do I have to do to stand out from my competition to get that 1.5% to store with me down the street? And asking that question, that kind of just put me on this journey and the path of putting the systems in place. When it comes to having that mindset of one, to make sure that they're calling me in the first place before they call my competition. Cool. Well, now once they're calling me, what do I have to do to get those conversions? And so with getting those conversions, that's the sales process and how I'm acting on the phone. And okay, now that they're here, what can I do to increase my revenue to make sure I build as much revenue as I can and maximizing the value of each customer, because then that's going to feed itself into my property of capital expenditures and paying me as a bonus and for the marketing, and just kind of started working together. But it was all based off that one little simple question. When I found out 10% of all households use storage, I'm like, all right, reverse engineered how much of that percentages I needed to store with me, which ended up being 1.5%. I'm like, cool. And then just asking that question. All right, now that I know that, what do I have to put in place to make sure I can set myself up for success to get those people to choose me? And I just kind of look back on it and I'm like, oh, that one little simple idea, that one little spark kind of started me on my journey. And here we go. 20 plus years later, doing this and kind of giving it back and then building my own company. It's kind of fun, just kind of looking back on that. So kind of want to leave you with that. Today, you got some virtual conference going on. It seems like there is trainings all the time online. We don't have to wait anymore for the national biannual conferences that are happening, or the state shows or something like that. With COVID, we're all forced to do everything online, and it kind of gives everyone a lot more opportunity, especially managers, because quite frankly, let's just be honest, usually it's owners, developers going to these conferences. Managers, they're left home minded and tending business. They can't close up and take the day off and go to these shows, or well, it's not a day. It's, to be honest, it's like 3, 4, 5 days all said and done with travel time back and forth. You can't do that. So I know most managers don't have the opportunity to go to these things. And that's the people that need to be going to these conferences, quite frankly. So yeah, take advantage of it. With all this being online now, I think it's amazing. Yeah, spend the time and listen to these people that are in these conferences, and then that kind of networking. Because it might be just like me. Sometimes you'll hear one little idea, one little spark, and that might put you down a path of, utilizing that in your own business, in your own storage business, and all of a sudden, cool, you're a lot better off than you were the day before, just from one little idea. So I will leave you with that, guys. Again, thanks so much for taking the time, tuning in, being a part of this, subscribing to the podcast, watching the shows. It means a lot. So again, if you haven't subscribed already, the Self Storage Show, please subscribe it, like it, whatever you want to do, the reviews, and all that kind of stuff. It feeds on itself. We're building something pretty fun here, so I like it. Thanks so much, guys. I will talk to you soon. Take care. Hi, everyone. This is Jim again. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to visit 3milestorage.com for more free resources on how to grow your self-storage business. See you on the next episode.